All right, got another quick video for you today, and I want to talk about the ride engine Airbox in particular. I've seen a bunch of these pop up everywhere. I've seen them on Amazon. I've seen Damien Leroy on his channel cover a couple of these, and it seems like they're ready for prime time. So I gave a call to Bobby down at Houston Kiteboarding. He told me he'd sold hundreds of these units and that it was absolutely worth a shot. So I jumped for it. I ended up going for the ride engine just because I like supporting kite-specific brands rather than just like the generic brand on Amazon. And so today I'm going to talk through, what was my experience and whether or not I liked it. All right, so let's start with the real world test. As soon as I got this thing, I just said, great, let me see how many things I can pump up. And I just sat down and I pumped up all my kites, my wings. I pumped up a stand-up paddleboard. I pumped up a inflatable wingboard. And honestly, I was totally surprised. This wasn't a super scientific test, but basically I didn't run out of juice. And so this is gonna be more than enough for your average session. It's gonna pump up any kites that you're gonna pump up. Most likely it's gonna pump up all the kites for 2 or 3 friends if they come with you. And so in terms of battery life and power to get these kites pumped up, I was impressed. This was not at all what I was expecting. I thought they wouldn't be powerful enough. I thought they would basically run out of batteries after a couple of kites, and I didn't find that to be the case. Cool, and so now that I basically have 10, 15 sessions on this thing, what do I think the pros and the cons are? Starting with the pros, it just requires no effort whatsoever. And so for those of you that have ever had to pump up a 19-meter kite, or back in the day, a 20-meter kite, this just takes all of the work away and saves all of your energy for kiting, and I love it. So pro number 2 is the size of this thing. It's much, much smaller and much more compact than a regular kite pump, so it saves you a bunch of space in your bags. You could bring it as a backup to another pump. You could easily travel with this thing. I think it's a good size. Number 3, the weight. It's actually not that heavy. It really doesn't add a bunch of burden to your pack or whatever you're bringing with you. And so I think it's a good balance of size and weight. So I talked about this first, the capacity. I think I got through 2 or 3 kites, 2 or 3 wings, a wingboard. And that's more than I'm ever gonna pump up in a single setting, even if I'm out there with a handful of friends. So capacity is great. Next, usability. I didn't have to read any instructions. There's just a couple of buttons. You just set your pressure and hit go. I think it's pretty easy and quick to get up and using. Last but not least, I love that they used USB-C. USB-C is kind of the single adapter that I travel with for my laptop, for all my other equipment, so I've got that with me. And so knowing that this will just use the same adapter and I don't have to bring anything specific to it, it just makes everything easier to travel with. Cool, let's jump into the cons. So the first con is that the hose on this thing isn't compatible with other ride engine pumps. It's also not compatible with the WFM&G, which is one of the more standard pumps I see out there. And I would just like to have seen that hose be one that you can kind of get anywhere and replace anywhere. Number 2 con is actually an extension. It's the nozzles on the tip of the nose, so the one that you need that is kite specific. I ride core kites, it has a specific nozzle. And so those nozzles at the end, I think there's kind of one for stand-up paddleboards, one for regular kites, and it screws in, and I just wish it were a plain Jane standard nozzle that I didn't have to mess with. Third con, I found that there was a small bug with the pump where it basically gets confused between the high pressure and low pressure motors and switches back and forth. Fortunately, ride engines got this figured out. There's a quick reset button you hit and everything goes back to normal. So yeah, just figured I'd put that out there. Next con, this thing gets noisy. When you switch from the low pressure to the high pressure motor, you can really hear that thing kick in. If you're out in nature, if you're out there by yourself, this is going to break the silence. And listen, it's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely not as nice as something that just kind of like you didn't notice in the background. And then last but not least, this is an electronic device. This has motors in it, so you can't toss it in the water. You can't leave it overnight in the rain. And I did exactly that. I actually left this thing out. I forgot about it. I kind of always forget about my pumps. Fortunately for me, it wasn't ruined. I'll keep everyone posted here if it eventually dies down the road. But you do have to pay attention and take care of this more than you do your regular pump. In your regular pump, most people just beat on them, leave them outside, abuse them. And this will probably require more care than that. All right, so Evan from the future here. One quick addition to the review. I basically ended up in an emergency situation. I was in Miami. I was on a baby moon. I didn't know if I was gonna get to kite, but I brought my stuff anyway. And this was the only pump that I brought. I was rushing out to the beach because the wind picked up. And right before I went, I checked the power and it was dead. And so this will not charge up in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I bet you could probably get at least a pump out of 30 or 40 minutes. But if you forget to stay on top of this, if you're not kiting regularly and keeping this topped up, it's definitely a downside of this setup, especially if this is the only one that you're gonna bring with you. I got lucky, someone else had a pump at the beach, so I got saved, but I figured I'd add that to the review as one of the cons of this particular setup. Cool, so there you have it. I love the Ride Engine Airbox. I think electronic pumps are gonna be the future. I'm gonna take this thing with me wherever I am, and I'm just gonna use my energy doing other things when I'm kiting instead of spending all that time pumping things up. It's also a great device for people who are into other water sports. Winging, if you have an inflatable stand-up paddleboard, an inflatable wingboard, this thing is a back saver. So for those of you who are thinking about one of these, if you liked it and if it was useful, give me a thumbs up. If I left something out or if you have any questions, throw them in the comments down below. And thanks for watching.